This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Turn.
And I'm Roman Bueller.
And today we are going to swing back to a topic that we wanted to cover a few months ago, but Bruce Pritchard kind of screwed that up for us.
Let's blame Conrad. Bruce had nothing to do with it. He was just talking about the show. Conrad's the one that makes the schedules up. But yeah, no, as soon as we announced it, like the next day, we're like, crap.
Yep.
It happened that quick. It's like, oh, man.
So we're swinging back to Backlash 2005. Took place just about a little over now, 15 years ago, in our home state of New Hampshire. And I was actually at that show, so I can give you a little bit of a different perspective than normal, because I remember watching a lot of this live.
What was it, like a 14-year-old Tim Kurt?
It was.
Nice. Yeah, no, I had just been married in 2004, so like I didn't have the money necessarily to go or you know whatever, and I wanted to go, and I knew it was there. I just didn't get a chance to go, so it would have been cool if we both had went. But,
I know.
At least we have some presence there. So
yeah. So let's get right into it, and then we'll also, a little bit later on in the show, we'll kind of go over Payback 2020 that took place last week.
Very, very surprisingly good pay-per-view for how short of a lead-up they had.
Yeah.
They had a 1-week lead time, essentially, and it was actually a pretty good show.
It was. It definitely exceeded expectations. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. But let's dive into Backlash 2005. You have 7 total matches. You have 1 match on Heat, which was Tyson Tomko getting a win over Val Venus in about 5 minutes and 40 seconds, which, as you probably know by now, is kind of a long match time for Heat.
That must have been the whole show.
Yeah.
5 minutes and 40. There's some Heat matches that 5 minutes and 40 is like 3 matches.
It's
like
3
some
matches.
of the shows they have on Heat. So yeah, 540. That's impressive. And I mean, Tomko probably never really got where he was hoping to get. I know he went to TNA. It didn't quite work out there for him either. But Val Venus, Sean Morley, a good hand, I guess, would be the good way to put it. So, I mean, he was a pretty good wrestler. So, it would have probably been a good match, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so. Val Venus, I think, can hold his own with anybody in the ring. And Tomko is probably a little bit green at this point in his career. But, yeah, I would think it went over pretty well.
And they went 6 minutes almost, so it couldn't have been that bad, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could be, but...
You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know with the WWE. So we kick off the actual pay-per-view with a singles match for the Intercontinental title. You have Shelton Benjamin, who is the champion, going to get a win over Chris Jericho in about 14 and a half minutes here. I thought this was a really solid opener. I thought this was an excellent match to open the show. It might be one of my favorites on the whole night, actually. I thought this match was that good. 2
guys that are still wrestling today.
Yeah.
I mean, Jericho's in AEW, and Shelton Benjamin is part of the Hurt Business on Raw. I think Shelton Benjamin, no matter what you hear from anybody, if you're a wrestling fan, you think he's one of the more underrated guys that probably should have achieved more. Mm-hmm. I think his personality held him back. He's not as personable as some of the guys that came, like, you know, because I mean, he was in the class at OVW with Orton and Lesnar and Cena, those guys. So he's probably the lesser name of that group. But I think it was just, I mean, his skill was probably better than any of them. Pure wrestling skill. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it's his look or his person. Something held him back, which is too bad. But I mean, he still had a good career. He just wasn't that level of like a Chris Jericho or a Randy Orton or Cena, any of those guys.
Having said that, though, I think with the program he's in now, the Hurt Business, I think that's perfect for him because he doesn't have to be a mouthpiece. He's got MVP for that role.
And let's just go out on a limb here and say that them bringing MVP back for that one-off that's now turned into like it actually worked out really well because what he's doing right now, he's making Lashley relevant, he's making Shelton Benjamin relevant, and it looks as though either Cedric Alexander or Apollo might join that group at some point. Mm-hmm. They're going somewhere with it.
Yeah.
Which is good because those guys were underutilized anyways. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I think it's great. And like I said, MVP was supposed to be a one-off, and he signed like a 2 or 3 year deal just recently. So he'll be around for a little while.
Next up, we have a tag team turmoil match, which is basically a tag team gauntlet match for the World Tag Team titles. So we start off with Tajiri and William Regal. They're your champions here. They're going to get a quick victory over the Heartthrobs.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, I know. Antonio and Romeo, as we all know, they are one of the best tag teams of all time.
Yeah, I think they probably held the title, 15, 16 times now?
I think so.
Yeah, no, I actually had to look up who they were.
Me
too.
too.
I was like, who are these guys? And you were there. So
I was there.
Yeah, you weren't impressed, clearly.
No. There was actually, surprisingly, a lot of this I didn't really remember. There was some things I remembered about it, and there was a lot of things that I had to go back and like, oh, that's right.
Well, and this tag team turmoil thing was kind of like filler, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of clustery. Even the JR and the King didn't know what was going on during it. They
Yeah.
were like, oh, they don't get a rest or anything in between. Like people just come, yeah. So it was definitely thrown together, I think, as filler. But I mean, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't great either. Probably the worst thing on the card, honestly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it also wasn't, the drizzling shits or anything. It was okay. It filled the spot, really, is what it did.
Mm-hmm. You have the next up. You have Simon Dean and Maven. They're also going to be eliminated by Tajiri and William Regal. Simon Dean's doing his whole Simon system, kind of.
What a weird pairing that is.
I know.
Maven and Simon Dean. They came out and I was like, oh wow, I forgot about that too.
Then you had Tajiri and William Regal would end up getting eliminated by La Resistance, which is Rob Conway and Sylvain Grenier. And then you have the eventual winners. You have Hurricane and Rosie becoming your new tag team title.
Rosie being the superhero
in training. S-H-I-T.
And I bet you Vince McMahon was like, that's such good shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a way to beat Tajiri and Regal, but not have another face team beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially by having La Resistance take the titles in between, a sort of. Even the King was like, oh, they're the champions now. And JR was like, no, not really. The match ain't over yet. He's like, but they beat the champions. So it was interesting. They didn't know what was going on.
King was a little confused there.
Yeah, I think they both were, because like I said, I think it was just kind of thrown together and they didn't know what was going on.
Next up is a last man standing match. You have Edge getting a win over Chris Benoit in just under 19 minutes. We've gone into it plenty in depth about how we feel about Chris Benoit here on the show. We don't need to rehash that.
No, you just got to separate the performer from the person. And like I said, if you were to wipe him from the record books, you'd lose a lot of really good matches.
Yeah,
that's the easiest way to put it. Yeah, he did what he shouldn't have done and whatever. But like you said, we've talked about it before. Edge still going today, sort of. He get injured in the match with Orton. But he should be coming back, I would imagine. But and Benoit was around. I think he'd still have something to do with it if things hadn't happened the way they happened. So this match was pretty brutal, though. This was. It was last man standing, so it should have been. But it was a pretty brutal match. It wasn't Mankind and The Rock.
With the chair shot over
the head.
it
wasn't that bad.
No.
But it was still a pretty physical match with they seemed to have trash cans a lot was their go-to. So it wasn't like hitting them with chairs or nothing, but it was a pretty good match though.
Pretty good match. The finish came. Edge hits Chris Benoit with a brick.
Yeah.
And then he couldn't answer the thing. I remember that. I had floor seats actually for the show. Which, if you're gonna get floor seats, make sure you get the front, because if you're in the back like I was, it's really hard to see. I watched most of the show on the monitor the whole time.
Yeah, especially if you're a smaller person. At that point you were 14, you probably weren't very tall.
Yeah.
At that point, if you're not one of the taller folks, if you're 5'5" and you're sitting in the back, good luck. You may as well just watch it at home.
My dad was okay. Anybody that knows my dad knows he's a pretty tall guy.
Your dad's giving you the Cliff Notes version of what's happening, so you can see it all. But like I said, this match was a pretty good match too. Two great performers, and like I said, you can say whatever you want about Benoit, but to me, performer-wise, great performer.
Yeah. Next up was a singles match that went just over 6 minutes. You have Kane with his wife Lita getting a win over Viscera with Trish Stratus. This was solid filler here. They kept playing up if Viscera got the win that Trish Stratus was gonna, do something to Viscera. Ooh. And you probably know what that means.
Yeah, some sexual entendre there.
Yep.
There might be some things happening if you win. I think that Mabel Viscera, he for a bigger guy, especially earlier on in his career, could do a lot of things. I think at this point though, he was kind of on his way out. He wasn't as mobile as he used to be. So Kane had to kind of carry the match, and if you're having Kane carry the match, he's a great wrestler, but again, he's limited as what he can do. Yeah. Plus, he's wrestling a 500-pound guy, so the match was pretty sloppy. It wasn't terrible, but it was what it was. It was probably just like the Tomko Val Venus match. There was probably spots in it where you went, ugh, but it wasn't terrible. It's just two bigger guys, and a lot of times, two bigger guys, unless they both can go, the match kind of looks a little awkward. Mm-hmm. No, I agree. It's kind of just for filler anyways. Yeah, this one and the tag team turmoil were just, no one cared about those two matches considering what was on the card before and after. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, what you probably, when you think of Backlash 2005, this is probably what you think of. It's the tag team match. You have Hulk Hogan teaming up with Shawn Michaels for the first time ever to take on Muhammad Hassan and Daivari. Match went about 15 minutes long. They kept playing up that this was the first time that Hogan and Shawn teamed together, so how can they really coexist as a tag team?
where Daivari and Muhammad Hassan have been together for a while.
Plus their egos too. They were playing up their two massive egos,
Yeah,
which is true.
Which
they
is
are.
true.
I mean, Sean and Hulk both two, and they should be for what they've done in business.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they were playing that card the whole time, and we all know what this led to. That this was the beginning of the Sean versus Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew where they were going with it.
But other than the match, it was all right. It was typical. Shawn Michaels took a lot of punishment. Hogan got the hot tag. Kind of did his he hulked up, got his big boot. He teased the leg drop several times. Never actually got to do it because Daivari kept interfering with him.
Yeah.
But Shawn Michaels hit Sweet Chin Music. Hogan gets the pin for the 1, 2, 3. So I didn't think it was like an overwhelmingly great match, but I thought it was solid.
Well, and like I said, it set the table for everything else that would come with Hulk and Sean.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of the whole thing. So.
And we have one more match to go. It was a singles match for the World Heavyweight Championship. You have Batista, the champion, getting a win over Triple H with Ric Flair.
Batista, Triple H, 2.
2, yes. Win about 16 and a half minutes. Triple H went for about 500 pedigrees in this match.
Ric Flair was counting them.
Yeah.
On the outside. He wasn't strutting. He was counting the pedigree attempts. Yeah.
I thought it was a solid main event match. Triple H obviously putting Batista over here. I thought it was, it didn't go overly long, but I thought it was enough time for a World Heavyweight title match. So I actually enjoyed this one.
Well, and this is the second of the 3 that they had that summer, and Batista wins all 3.
Yep.
And it took Triple H 14 years later to get his payback and beat Batista finally
at WrestleMania. Yeah.
Last year, not this past one, obviously, but it told the story of the young pupil beating the teacher. I mean, that's he was an evolution. They groomed him, and now they can't beat him.
Yeah,
and it's a relatable. I mean, they do stuff like that all the time in wrestling everywhere. That's one of their storylines that's never going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Look at just this past Friday, Bayley turning on Sasha Banks. Finally, we knew somebody was going to turn on one of them eventually.
Yep.
But it's the same kind of thing. You have that you're a friend, you're a mentor, you're a tag team partner, and sooner or later one of them turns, and you have a feud.
Mm-hmm.
It's been years in the business, so this was a little bit different where he was still kind of green and they took him under their wings, but still same kind of gist of what was going on. And I mean, Triple H back then was hard to beat once, let alone 3 times.
3 times, yeah.
So that's what they thought about Batista. That's what it tells you all you need to know.
And it also kind of debunks the narrative that Triple H never wants to put anybody over.
Well, Triple H wants to put over people that he wants to put over.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. I mean, he's a great mind. So if he thinks it sucks, why would you want to put it over?
Yeah.
Then that's the thing that some people that are pissed about Triple H having that, they probably weren't that good in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you need somebody to beat Triple H if they're not that good? It just makes Triple H look less credible the next time you try to do something like this.
Yeah.
So, but I think this storyline was perfect because he beat him 3 times right in a row. I mean, just bang, bang, bang. He should, it's good and refreshing that it wasn't 50-50 booking, which is kind of what they do now. You win one, I win one. You win, like all 3 of them clean.
Yeah.
So it like I said, it made Batista look like a force, and that's exactly what they wanted to achieve, and that's what they got.
Yeah. So overall, I thought it was a pretty decent pay-per-view. If I had to recommend one match, I'm going to recommend the first match, Shelton Benjamin versus Chris Jericho. I really enjoyed that one for the Intercontinental title. There's a couple pieces of filler here. I'm probably going to give this one probably a 6.5 for a rating.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, too, this was a Raw-only show.
Yeah.
So they had to have a little bit of filler. Because if not, it would have been like an hour-and-a-half show. So, in my opinion, you can watch this whole show if you want and just kind of skip through the tag team turmoil and the Kane Viscera thing, and you won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
All those other matches are great. Plus, I mean, not that the Muhammad Hassan, Daivari, and Shawn Michaels Hogan match was a great match, but again, it's that nostalgia of Hogan and Shawn Michaels at first. So, I mean, it wasn't a fantastic wrestling match by any means. Like you said, Shawn Michaels being in the ring, taking a beating pretty much the whole match, and then the typical Hulk up, clothesline, big boot, leg drop, combo. They didn't get to do the leg drop, but I mean, that's how Hogan matches have been for 40 years.
Yeah.
So, but like he said, they started off hot. The Shelton Benjamin Chris Jericho match was a very good match. If you want a pure wrestling match, that would be the way to go, because that was easily the best wrestling match on the card.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to transition and talk about Payback 2020. Took place roughly a week ago. coming off your SummerSlam pay-per-view. It's kind of weird that they did 2 pay-per-views back-to-back like that.
Yeah, it was weird placement, but like we said at the beginning of the show, I was surprised at how good this pay-per-view actually was. It was pretty good for just being thrown together 1 week after SummerSlam.
Yeah, absolutely. Your pre-show match was the Riot Squad getting a win over the Iconics in 9 minutes. Of course, we know now that the Iconics lost another match on Raw, and they are forced to split up, so they are no more.
And then Peyton Royce sacrificed Billy Kay on Raw Underground.
On Raw Underground.
So yeah, that pretty much sums that up. Yeah. But I mean, honestly, no offense to Billy Kay. I think Peyton Royce is the star of that group. Mm-hmm. Honestly, she has a better look, and again, no offense to Billy Kay. She's just, for what she annoys the hell out of me. Her voice is way more annoying than Peyton Royce's. But like I said, if you had to pick one out of the 2 that I think is that typical WWE look, it's definitely Peyton Royce. Yeah. And again, not trying to. I mean, Billy Kay's Billy Kay, but it's not. I'm not trying to tell any. I'm not trying to say anything that people don't really actually think and know. I'm just saying it out loud.
Yep.
So
we kick off the actual show with Bobby Lashley with his Hurt Business brothers, MVP and Shelton Benjamin.
Montel Vontavious Porter.
Yep. Getting a win over Apollo Crews by submission. And this is for the U.S. title, so Bobby Lashley becomes your new U.S. champion.
So where was Apollo Crews' buddies in this? You know what I mean?
I know.
Like, why wouldn't Apollo make sure that he had some guys with him? You know that Lashley's not coming alone.
Yeah.
You would have thought this would have been a perfect time to have Cedric Alexander turn on Crews and join the Hurt Business, if that's where they were going. I don't know if it's Apollo that's going to join them. One of them will probably likely join them.
Ricochet's involved in that too, but I can't see him being
I like his sidebar. I like how R-Truth thinks his name's Rick O'Shea. He thinks his name is Rick O'Shea, like he's an Irish black man. It's weird. That's what he thinks.
Yeah,
he thinks that Cedric Alexander, Cedric the Entertainer. When they had that back, every time R-Truth cracks me up, anyways. But I think every time I hear Ricochet, I think Rick O'Shea. I think it's funny. Anyways.
Next up, you have Big E getting a win over Sheamus in 12 minutes and 20 seconds. Again, I thought it was a solid match. I think Sheamus is really underrated as a performer. I think he can hold his own with anybody. And Big E, too, I think kind of the same sentiments. I thought this was a pretty good match.
Physical match.
Physical match, very definitely. Physical match. They continued the feud yesterday on SmackDown, where Big E was supposed to be part of the Fatal 4-Way match for the #1 contendership, but Sheamus attacks him, does the white noise through the car window windshield.
The old windshield spot.
Yep.
And then that actually led to Jey Uso winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it also, like you said, keeps the storyline going of that could have been Big E.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like you said, Sheamus, for what he's done for the last, 12, 15 years in the business, is probably one of the better big men that can go either way, face, heel. He's probably a better heel, in my opinion. I think so. But still, he can do both. He can be the crowd favorite, and he's a great wrestler for what he does. I mean, he was a little bit green when he first came in and beat Cena in that tables match.
Yep.
But since then, he's gone on to have a hell of a career.
Absolutely.
And Big E, like you said, being part of the New Day for so long, I think people forget that he's a great wrestler for a bigger guy. That dive he does through the ropes is insane for the guy his size.
For his size, absolutely. Next up is another singles match. You have Matt Riddle getting a win over King Corbin in just under 11 minutes. Bro. I'm not the biggest Matt Riddle character fan. I think he can go in the ring.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big fan of the whole surfer dude.
Surfer, frat boy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely a great in-ring technician.
He is.
I mean, he used to be a UFC fighter.
I
mean, he knows what he's doing. And I will say right now that if you didn't have Randy Orton as the best heel in the business, Corbin's the next best guy.
Absolutely.
He is absolutely hated. Like when crowds are there. I mean, there's no crowds there now, but when crowds were there, they were just starting to get on the Corbin sucks bad band. Like if Orton wasn't around, Corbin would hands down be the best heel that the WWE has.
Absolutely.
And like I said, Matt Riddle is his gimmick's a little bit weird, a little bit. I mean, but some of that's actually him. He kind of lives the gimmick.
Yeah.
So I like what he can do in the ring. Gimmick's a little, like I said, whatever. But again, a very solid match. And again, they gave a lot of these matches plenty of time.
Yeah,
which is good. I mean, even the next match, the women's championship match. I'm not going to jump you, but even that one had more time than I thought they were going to give it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. Speaking of that match, it was for the women's tag team championship. You have Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax getting a win over Bayley and Sasha Banks by submission. It was kind of a neat finish where Shayna Baszler had Bayley in the submission hold, but she used Sasha Banks' arm for leverage.
She had her leg tucked under too. Like it was it made Shayna look like a badass,
an
absolute badass. And The quote of the night was afterwards when Corey Graves said, "Well, now Sasha is no belts."
Yep.
She's no belts Banks.
No belts Banks.
And again, they furthered that storyline
yesterday on SmackDown.
This past Friday on SmackDown. You knew sooner or later it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of surprised it was Bayley that turned.
Yeah.
For a while they were teasing the Sasha being jealous of Bayley.
Yep.
But it was cool. It was definitely a cool moment, unexpected. And obviously, if you're gonna have him turn, you got to take the belts off him. I don't think anybody thought Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax were gonna be the ones to beat him. But, it keeps them on TV relevant, and they don't have to face singles matches, so you can actually kind of put it whichever way you want between the two. It's kind of like, we don't know what to do with these two. Let's put them together. Yeah. That's kind of what they did, and it works. I like they don't like each other, but they still. The storyline's not bad, put it that way.
No,
I was
absolutely.
surprised at how well they've done it. So
yeah, I agree. It's be interesting to see how they further develop the whole Bayley and Sasha Banks thing now too.
I think that you're not going to see Sasha for a little while. She's
going
to sell that injury and stuff, and she'll probably come. It wouldn't surprise me if she comes back to either cost Bayley the title, maybe not next pay-per-view, maybe the one after, or something like that, or if she ends up facing her at maybe Survivor Series or something like that. They're going to further it a little bit. They're going to stretch it out. But it was, like I said, it was actually a surprisingly good match, and it got over 10 minutes. Yeah. The shortest match on the card is the next one, which is surprising. Yeah,
I was just about to say, this is kind of surprising. You have Keith Lee getting a clean win over Randy Orton in 6 minutes and 40 seconds. I think that's not so much that Keith Lee won, but just how short the match was. I think it's the more surprising factor of it.
Yeah, and Orton has that same Triple H vibe sometimes, where people bitch about him not wanting to put people over. Well, he sure as hell put Keith Lee over that night. Yeah, because Orton didn't have much offense in that match at all. He had a few spots here and there, but it was pretty much 80% Keith Lee. Yeah, and he dominated him for the whole match, and not some schmoz finish, but a clean finish in the middle of the ring. Yeah, absolutely. Again, Orton being as hot as he is, that doesn't happen much. I mean, McIntyre beat him. But I mean, you kind of figured if that's maybe the only guy that should beat him, the way they're putting him. So, I mean, Shawn Michaels somehow survived the punt kick.
Yeah, I know.
We talked about that the last time. But I mean, everybody that Orton's had in front of him, he's murdered essentially on screen. And for it to be Keith Lee come out and beat him in 7 minutes. I mean, that just shows you what they think of Keith Lee. I know McMahon has a giant heart on for Keith Lee. He really likes Keith Lee, which is good for him because that means he'll be pushed. Yeah. And I think he's going to turn into one of the better heels in the business eventually. That's the rumor going around, that they're going to have him turn eventually. Okay. He's going to be a monster heel. I think he can pull that off, too.
I think so, too. Yeah. I think that's probably a good way to go for this character.
And I think it's going to be with Drew McIntyre eventually. Nice. That's what I've read, that McMahon sees him as a monster heel. So...
Next up was a tag team match. You have Dominic and Rey Mysterio getting a win over Seth Rollins and Murphy in 16 minutes. I thought this was a solid tag team match. Dominic Mysterio is really surprising me here for how young he is and how green he is. He can really go. I thought this was another solid performance by him, and I thought Seth Rollins is good as usual.
I mean, this is probably the first time in a long time they've had someone debut on the main roster. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had Santino Marella back in the day come out of the crowd, but I mean, he still had training too. But like, I can't think of anybody else that started off at SummerSlam or started off on Raw, just boom. So that right there tells you what they think of him. Plus, they want to keep Ray around. I mean, Ray was injured in the match, which is unfortunate. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Dominic has impressed me as well, and I think they're setting up for the Murphy-Seth Rollins feud here too. Eventually, I think Murphy, after Rollins berated him on Raw, I think they're setting that up where Murphy's going to have enough of Seth, and that could be a really good feud. I mean, think back to the Murphy-Aleister Black stuff. Those matches were great. Yeah. Seth Rollins can have matches like that with Murphy. It'll be totally worth it.
Absolutely. Next up was a no-holds-barred triple threat match for the Universal title. Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman getting a win over the Fiend Bray Wyatt with Braun Strowman. Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman start off the match, and they battle for most of the match. There was a superplex off the top rope, which imploded the ring.
Charles Robinson takes the flop out of the ring. Yep. Leans up against the ropes. And, yep. Yeah. Well, and Roman Reigns actually fell out of the ring in that match. Later on, he went to when he went to go back to the ropes and grab the ropes, there was no ropes. Yeah. He fell right on his head. I mean, he fell out of the... I don't think that was supposed to happen. I think he forgot there was no ring. He landed on the apron, rolled on the floor, and I was like, ooh. I'm like, that looked like it hurt. But, yeah, and then that's, after the superplex, like you said, not to cut you off, that's when Reigns showed up. Ironically enough, shows up, signs a contract, and rest is history. Beat them both with a couple of chair shots. A couple of kickouts, too, in there after Roman came out, but you kind of knew it was going to happen. Where he didn't show up the first part of the match, he was going to let them beat each other up and come in and steal the belt, which is essentially what he did. It was cool when he looked up at Heyman after the kick out by, it was either Bray or Braun, I can't remember which one kicked out. He looked up at Heyman and he's like, you guys aren't staying down, what do I do?
Yeah.
That was a pretty cool spot. But obviously Heyman makes good money and they want him on TV, and I think Reigns can be a very good heel as long as they don't push it down your throat.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing. You got to be careful with how you do it because people are a little wishy-washy on Roman anyways. They wanted him to be a heel for a while. He wanted to come back as a heel. But I think putting Heyman with him gives him a lot of heat.
I did too, and it wasn't something I was expecting.
No.
So,
I wasn't expecting him to come back at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
We'll never see it coming, and we didn't.
Nope. And then on SmackDown, when he comes with Paul Heyman, I was shocked. It was one of there hasn't been a whole lot of shock value lately in wrestling.
Yeah.
That was one of the moments that shocked me.
Those two really. Him
Yeah,
coming back and doing what he did and destroying everybody.
Yep.
And then no, I totally agree. And as soon as he said spoiler and looked, I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
No way. And that's sure as heck it was Paul Heyman.
Yeah. But overall, I thought this was a solid show. Definitely exceeded expectations, like you said. It was.
Well, and that's why we didn't even preview it.
Yeah,
because we thought it was going to suck.
Yeah.
But actually, it turned out to be one of their better shows since the pandemic, I think.
I think so too. And I think the Thunderdome helps too. I think the shows have definitely.
I tried to get in there last night. By the way, I had a 9:15 call time. They break it up and they give you a link to get in. And when I clicked it, it was already full. So I tried twice, couldn't get in. I wanted to experience it. I was hoping to do it before I came here to talk about it. And that's another thing too. We're back together in the same room for the first time in 4 months.
For 4 months.
We're not doing it through Zoom right now, so that's kind of cool. Kind of a reunion show almost. But I tried to get. I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't get a chance to. So.
Yeah, well,
it was full.
Who knows? Maybe one day we'll get into the Thunderdome. So coming up for you guys next week, we're going to circle back to 2004, talk about Unforgiven. Next week will be the exact 16th anniversary of that show. Pretty stacked card. You have Triple H and Randy Orton on top for the world title. Some other solid matches as well in there.
Kind of the similar thing to the Batista Triple H.
Yeah.
Same kind of storyline almost. Orton, they turn on him, and it was just a year before that.
Yep. It's coming off Evolution.
Yep.
So that's coming up for you guys next week, and we'll be back next Saturday at 5. Everybody take care, be safe. Thanks for listening. I'm Tim Kurt.
And I'm Roland Bueller.
And this is Wrestling Past and Present.